Hi, I just want to welcome you to G4 Guitar. My name is David Hart. I'm the program director. What I want to do is just give you a quick overview of what we do and who we are. First of all, I'll just quickly explain who I am and what my background is. I've been playing guitar for approximately 30 years and I've been teaching for a little over 20. I started guitar teaching more or less as an influence from two of my very great teachers, if you like. I had a drum teacher initially when I was about 13, 14, and then I went on and had a guitar teacher when I was about 17. Both of those two teachers in particular influenced me to become a guitar teacher. I also had many other great teachers in other areas of mentoring who weren't necessarily guitarists but were still great teachers. Teaching to me, what makes me teach and what has driven me to be a teacher is that I love the challenge of seeing someone who can't do something be able to do something and know that I had an impact in making that happen. To me, it's the biggest thrill that I can imagine. The G4 Guitar method is all about getting strategies, putting strategies in place that I know that work. I've tested many strategies over the years, plus I look at the way other people teach and look at the way great teachers teach, and I ask myself, what can I do to make that work? The G4 Guitar method at first to you will be a little bit overwhelming because you've got a lot to learn and there's a lot of things in there that you probably won't understand initially, but as you start to use it you will build confidence in the method and it will support you as a teacher. One of the things that I really want to point out about the G4 Guitar method is it's designed as much for the teacher as it is for the student. Obviously we want the student to progress, we want it to work, but we also want to make sure that the teacher is focused on teaching and not spending a lot of extra time doing things that are unnecessary. So it's all about keeping it lean, cutting the fat off if you like. What happens typically to teachers, I'm just going to give you a quick scenario of a typical life of a guitar teacher and what happens. They start off and they decide, I'm going to teach guitar. They put it out in the local newspaper or they put a flyer up at the local school, whatever, and they start getting some students. The student turns up and says, okay, I want to play guitar, what do I need to do? And you as a teacher sort of say, well, you know, put your finger here, and strum a couple of these chords and away you go. Now the student tries to do that and sort of some of them get it, some of them don't, and then they go home and they try it for a little while, they can't do it, they come back the next week. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, some students continue, some students drop out. Just depends on how committed they are and whether or not they're willing to keep going with it. Now, you as a teacher, if you haven't had any experience, what you tend to do is that you realize it's not working, so you try something else, etc., etc. So it's all about reinventing the wheel. The G4 Guitar method is actually the wheel evolved many years further down the track. So where we're looking at the sports car opposed to a rock that's being carved into a wheel, and that's typically what happens when most people decide to teach, is they reinvent the wheel. So they take years and years to understand and develop this style of teaching. The G4 Guitar method actually shortcuts and goes around all that, but because it's already evolved, it's gone through all those processes. We know what works, we know what doesn't work to a large degree. It doesn't mean that we are perfection, but we are a lot further down the track as far as that's concerned. So by using the G4 Guitar method, you will not fall into that trap that most teachers fall into, and you will be tempted to fall into traps. What will happen, here's one typical trap. Students will say to you, I don't want to learn scales, I don't want to learn reading, I don't want to learn any of that stuff, I just want to play songs. And so you as a teacher think, well, my job is to keep the student happy. But is it really? Is your job to keep the student happy? Not really. Your job is to teach the student. That's what you are, is a teacher. And keeping them happy and teaching them is not always the same thing. So although we do want to keep them happy because we want to keep them coming, we also need to make sure we're teaching them. I'll give you a quick example. I won't say who it is, but somebody I know, a friend of mine, learnt piano for over 10 years. When I asked her to play something for me, she couldn't play anything. And I said, you can't play anything. You learnt piano, you went every week for 10 years to a teacher and you can't play. And she said, yeah, I can't play anything. And I said, are you serious? So don't you feel a little bit ripped off that you spent 10 years going to this teacher, or your parents feel a little bit ripped off and they paid all this money and you can't play anything? And she said, yeah, kind of, but she was a really nice lady. Okay, so here was the point. She enjoyed going to lessons, she liked the lessons, and she liked the teacher, but she didn't learn a thing. Now, if I was a teacher, I would feel very guilty about that. Even though you like me, that's great. You're not paying me you're paying me to teach you, and I haven't taught you, so I would feel very guilty. So it's important that you are teaching students, because at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be judged on. That's what they will remember. If a student can play, they will be saying, where did you learn? Who did you learn off? Bang, 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 and there you go, and the word spreads. But typically teachers, what they do is they try and make students happy rather than teaching them what they need to play. So just keep that in mind, that when you're teaching a student, doesn't mean that you make them unhappy. It just means you have to explain more, and you've got to go through strategies to build confidence. What we do, what the G4 Guitar Method does, is that we keep them both happy, but also teach them. So we keep that fine balance. So, but primarily what we're looking at is teaching them, and then what we're doing is doing the things that we need to do to keep them happy, but to keep them progressing. And I'll explain that more. It's all about confidence building. I'll do that on another audio for you. So that's a little bit about the method. The thing that I underline with everything, if you want to be successful at anything you do, it's all about consistency. Keep at it. Keep doing it. Keep working at it. Be consistent. Don't be late. Never be late. Never ever be late. Always be there on time, ready and prepared. Always be organized, and be consistently organized about the way you do things. It's the consistency that will make you great, and will see you moving forward very quickly. Most people have a lot of trouble with consistency. If you can be consistent, it works. I use sometimes the McDonald's sort of scenario. McDonald's are consistent. Whether you like McDonald's or not, they're consistent, and that's what makes them successful, is their consistency. Third thing I want to talk about quickly is administration. We have an administration process. You need to go through the administration process. You need to understand the administration. It's important that you understand your obligations as far as a teacher is concerned, because if we don't know what's going on from that side of it, things get out of control, and before you know it, you're going to have students dropping out left, right and centre, and it affects the business big time. So please be aware of your administration duties. The fourth thing is increasing your earnings. If you want to increase your earnings, it's pretty well what I've just said then about consistency and fulfilling your admin duties. Increasing your earnings is about getting more students and keeping more students, but keeping them for the right reasons. What we're going to do is teach you about students and how to keep them, and all the things that you need to do in order to keep students and therefore increase your earnings. If you want to increase your earnings, it's in a nutshell, it's about doing the things that we ask you to do, because what we're asking you to do works. We know it works, and the more you do it, the quicker you will increase. I can give you plenty of examples of people who have gone up the ladder very quickly within G4, and that's because they've followed the things that we've asked them to do. So hopefully that's been helpful for you. Again, welcome to G4 Guitar, and please feel free to ask me any questions anytime via email if you can, or speak to any of the teachers, any people on our staff will be able to help you. Thank you.